Welcome to the Metal Voice. Today on the show, the one, the only Mr. Doogie White.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you're watching this.
Let's take a little walk, Doogie. Let's try to pull this off. You think we could do it?
I think we can do it.
On the streets in Montreal, actually in Chinatown.
Yeah.
Michael Schenker Fest, Montreal, Canada. Your first time to Montreal?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's and so far it's been very nice, and it's not as cold as I was expecting, which is good. But everybody's, you know, from what I've seen, just wandering around, it's nice.
Yeah. It's a great city. By the way, the snow is coming tomorrow, so you guys will miss it.
Oh, that's such a shame.
All right, let's get into music.
Yeah.
All right, you've played with Malmsteen, Blackmore, Schenker. You've done it all. You've played with the greats. What or which are your favorite albums from all the guitar giants, and why?
Well, I think Made in Japan is the greatest live album of all time. You know, that I love that. I love the live albums. Here's what it is. You know, you go into a studio, you write the songs, you spend the time writing the songs. Then you take them on the road, and that's when they get their life. That's when the songs take on a life of their own. Rock and roll for me is a living, breathing entity.
Yeah.
And sometimes songs don't work live when you've recorded them in the studio, as you find out as you go further down the road. But I think when I'm writing a song, whether it be with Richie or whether it be with Michael or whether it be with Chick McSherry with La Paz, I'm always looking for it to be able to be for the live arena. Because that's important, because that's when the life comes into the tune. Because you've maybe only played the song 4 or 5 times before you record it.
Yeah.
And so certainly as I go along, I find different avenues and different ways to approach it, you know. And so that's what I love about live rock and roll.
But I mean, from the albums that you've recorded with these metal guitar, or what metal, but rock guitar gods, we'll call them. What's your favorite? What stands out the most for you?
Well, there's always little individual songs. You know, there was Ariel from Stranger in Us All that I did with Richie. That was a great live tune. I had nothing to do with the writing of it. That was Candy and Richie that wrote that. I think Take Me to the Church from this one. I think Lord of the Lost and Lonely from Bridge the Gap is a great live song. Again, you see, it's difficult for me to pick because you write it, you record it, and then I learn what I've got to play live. I don't listen to what I've done particularly after I've done it.
Let's keep walking.
Yeah.
All right.
You know, so with Yngwie, it was different for Yngwie because I had no heart and soul really in it. I mean, it was more about the performances again live because he wrote everything. You know, he gave me all the lines and everything to do. I liked Razor Eater. I liked Rise Up very much because it had energy live. And I'm really enjoying Take Me to the Church live in the set just now. That's the one that people are focusing on that doesn't have the multiple singers. I mean, the multiple singer one is always going to be important, and that was the first release from the album. It showed the 4 singers all together having a great time. And then, of course, Robin's song "Heart and Soul" was released because, of course, that's got Kirk on it.
So just so everybody knows, it's the Resurrections, the Schenker Fest Resurrection album that we're talking about right now.
Yes, it is. The Resurrection album, the Michael Schenker Fest, and it was such a blast to record it. I did my vocal parts for both the songs that we did together while we were doing the photo shoot for the album.
Yeah, there you go.
Vossi set up a little studio in a side room, and I went in and did my lines in there, never having heard the songs before. I got a sheet of paper with the lines. I said, "What am I to sing?" He said, "Sing this." So I did. and he managed to pull it together. He managed to pull it together and get good performances out of everybody. So it was an exciting album to do. It's an exciting concept. I mean, I think it was very brave of Michael to put something like this together, and then to be invited into the party. I'm the new boy.
I'm going to say something, Doogie. I interviewed Michael before the album came out.
Yeah.
And the thing that stuck in my mind was, you know, he named the singers, and I go, oh, you know, 3 singers, you know. and then he goes, and Doogie. He always said, and Doogie White, right? And he really holds you in a high regard. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Well, that's very nice. It's very nice to know. I go and I do my best, you know, and there's lots of friendly competition between the singers, although they won't admit it. You know, but it's good fun, and everybody's raised their game because nobody wants to let the side down. So everybody's in there, you know, really on the top of their game, and it's a great live rock and roll show, and that makes it exciting for the audience, and the audience are as much a part of it. You know, some people have the new album because it only came out the day we started. You know.
True.
So it's gradually picking up momentum, and the more we're getting out there, the more they're singing Warrior, the more they're singing Take Me to the Church, they're getting involved, and that's what makes it exciting for me to look out there and to get that audience feedback. You know,
You know, our cameraman here, Orlando, is a big fan of the new album. Just so you know.
Okay.
He's telling Jimmy, I love the new album. I love the new album. Let's just go back in time, and I got a few guys asking me to ask you this question.
Okay.
It's the Iron Maiden audition.
Yes.
Like, what can you tell those hardcore Iron Maiden fans who just want to know, like, you know, what was it like being invited to audition for Iron Maiden?
Well, I was going to go to here's the truth. I was going to Scotland. I'd sent a tape in to Maiden and said, look, this is what I've done, blah blah blah, and I was ready to go to Scotland, and I got a chap on my door on the Friday night, and Dickie Bell who was the production manager, was at the door, and he said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm going to Scotland. He said, no, you're not, you're auditioning for Iron Maiden on Monday.
Jeez.
So he gave me a cassette, which I've recently found. You can find it on my Facebook page, the little cassette, and I found the letter with the lyrics, with, I think there was about 18 songs on it, mostly from a live one and a real live one and a real dead one. So we did, and it was mostly that I auditioned with, and I was first in. Dickie came round and picked me up and drove me up there, and it was at Steve's place in Harlow, and I went in, and you know, you're used to it kind of being set up like a band set up, but they weren't. They were in a kind of circle. So I had to pick where I was going to be. They all sort of stood round me. So I put Nico behind me, so you've always got the drum behind you, and we ran through it and had a cup of tea, and then I had a chat with Steve, and I went away, and that was it.
What songs? Like, do you remember? It was just all the tracks off a Real Dead One and
Real Live One and Real Dead One. You know, Be Quick or Be Dead, From Here to Eternity, The Evil That Men Do, and then the classics. You know, they're On to the Hills, and
because seriously, Doogie, like, I love Blaze, but I would have put my money basically on you versus, you know, at the time, right? And I love Blaze, but I would have put my money on you.
Well, you know, I think Steve had a definite idea of where he wanted to take the band.
Yeah.
You know, and they called me back in for a second edition, and my understanding is that they recorded that edition, but I wasn't aware of it. But a couple of weeks later, Steve phoned me up and said, "Look, we've given the job to Blaze."
Yeah.
And
great guy.
And he's great. I mean, he's the hardest working man in rock and roll, and he always delivers. He always delivers. And Steve wanted something different for the band. The easy route would have been for him to go and pick which a lot of people do now, to get the classic sound, is to go and pick a clone from, you know, a tribute band, or a clone from, you know, scouting the internet for it. But he didn't. He took a brave step again. Yeah. You know, he's a brave man, and he went out there and he did it, and they did 2 great albums, and they had success. But really, truthfully, you know, normal service has been resumed. You know, the sum of the parts is far greater than either Bruce being in his own or Maiden being his own. You know, they needed that, and Adrian coming back in just raised it all. And they are the greatest heavy metal band on the planet, bar none. Bar none.
I'm just saying that you and Blaze both, I think, had your different approaches in vocal wise, but it would have been made a good fit either way. That's how I looked at it.
But it would have still ended up the same.
It probably would have still ended up.
It would have ended up the same, and I wouldn't have got to play with Richie Blackmore.
Let's walk this little call. Tell me about that. Tell me about
that. From
that.
15 years old, you know, when I first heard Richie play, I wasn't a singer then, and I thought, oh, I'd love to sing in this guy's band, and you know, it took me 20 years, but my God, that was it. That was, I'd climbed Everest, I'd been to the moon, I'd done it, and I thought, where do I go from here? You know. And then you get phone calls from Yngwie, and then you get phone calls from Michael, and from Tank, and you get phone calls from Michael Schenker, and you know, and all of them have been very fruitful, creative endeavours. And I
stop here before Orlando.
and I always treat everything with the greatest of respect. But what I try to do, and what I try to do with Rainbow, and what I try to do with Michael, is if I was a fan, and trust me, I am. What would I want to see? I'm not here to rearrange the wheel for anybody, but I'm in to stamp my mark on what Schenker gives me to work with. You know, Are you working on another Temple of Rock album with him? That will be Michael's decision. That has never been discussed. I mean, it's very much. Today we're in Canada.
All right,
that's very much how it goes.
And what about a solo album? Have you considered writing material for, or are you just too busy?
I do solo albums when I have nothing else to do.
You're too busy.
Because a bored Doogie is a bad thing to be around, you know. and I have, you know, I've got my John Steele album out with the guys with John Steele from Bulgaria.
John Steele, yes.
You know, that's out there, and I've got gigs with them, and I do a lot of solo shows in Europe with different people. I'm going to South America twice this year as well. So I keep busy, you know, and if Michael needs me, he just picks up the phone and calls me and says, when are you available? I say, I'm available tomorrow. And he goes, right, okay, I'll see you.
Doogie, thanks for doing the interview.
Thank you so much.
Looking forward to Schenker Fest, Montreal, going right through North America or the US.
Yeah, we are.
The only stop in Canada, Montreal, Canada, first time in Canada.
Yeah,
welcome to cold Montreal, Canada.
It's beautiful. I'm loving it. I'm going to go and get myself some nice Chinese food because we seem to be in the right neighbourhood here.
Yeah. All right, man. Thanks.
Thanks very much.